We've got a big Puka Nacua injury update, week 13 winners and losers, and what does the future hold for Cooper Kupp? That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley? And welcome to the episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, a special shout out to our users over on YouTube. Definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not yet. We just passed 10,000 subscribers. It's all thanks to you. So join the party, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit that like button, and let us know. What do you think the future holds for Cooper Kupp? Is he on the decline? Can he get back to being the all-world Cooper Kupp that we saw in 2021? My name is Doug McKay. My friends call me D-Mac. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMac_LA. I'm covering LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 sports, SI, Dodgers Nation, now the Rams 4 Locked On. And as always, I'm joined by the Rams pre-, half, and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He's in his 8th season covering your Los Angeles Rams, the people's champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And on today's show, we're giving out grades, winners and losers, horns up, horns down. But first, this episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Now, Travis, we did get a little injury update yesterday, and thankfully, it's that Denzel Washington meme where he's like, on Puka Nacua. So he hit the ground hard off that 20-yard reception. He was on the turf. He got up gingerly, limping, was holding his shoulder. But Sean McVay said yesterday that he suffered an AC sprain, and he's going to practice, and he's going to most likely be back in action against the Ravens on Sunday. So that definitely is a relief.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things here. Number one, it goes to show you how tough of a player Puka Nacua is, because he took a bad fall. He took a big shot. You could tell he was in a great deal of pain because, and I know we're going to talk about Cooper Kupp coming up later on in the podcast, but watch Cooper Kupp get up off the ground. Watch how he does it. It looks like me trying to get out of my car after a long drive. This does not look great, right? It looks slow and deliberate. And Puka's usually a pop right back up guy. He was not on Sunday against the Browns. You're like, oh boy, he went straight to the locker room. It was concerning. I'm glad he's ready. I'm glad he's going to practice. I'm glad he's going to play against the Ravens on Sunday. But this is just that point in the season. I mean, we're into week 14 right now, where guys are banged up, guys are going to be hurt, guys are not going to feel good, guys are going to be playing with things that, you hope you don't have to, but that's just life in the NFL in December, and Puka's going to have to do it. I think he'll do it. I think he'll do it well. But yeah, that was a very scary moment because, like we talked about yesterday, the everydayers will remember this. That offense goes through Puka Nacua now. Puka Nacua and Kyren Williams are the lifeblood of that offense. And this, of course, excludes Matthew Stafford because he is the heart of the whole thing. But as far as playmakers go, it's Nacua, it's Williams, and you're going to need both of those guys if you're going to find your way to 9 wins.
And by the way, you just brought up Williams. I don't know if you saw on Twitter, someone posted the all-22 shot of Williams absolutely laid out Myles Garrett on a block, just pancake style, man. It was lethal. It was like one of those ones you got to dub in the boom, here comes the boom, that POD song. I think there might have been a one-hit wonder, but yeah, Kyren Williams is the man. So love the toughness of these guys, right? Kyren Williams and Puka Nacua. Other injury update, Quentin Lake. McVay said he has a chance to play on Sunday. He's for sure going to return by week 15. So he's a guy who's been basically put in there as that starting nickel guy in that star role. So that's good to see. But might as well just get it jumped off for these winners and losers. Horns up, horns down. Let's just go right at the top. Got to start with the highest PFF grade of the week. Of course, that was Puka Nacua. 139 total yards, 4 catches, 105 yards, and a touchdown. Also had 2 rushes for 34 yards. Had that 45-yard call back due to that Robinson hold. But if you look at what impressed me the most was there's a big difference between 40 times speed at the combine and football speed. And that was a 4.57 40 time that he took to the house. You saw him finishing runs. You see him falling forward. So impressed with him on that touchdown. Just a great play by Puka, and obviously an incredible throw by Stafford.
Well, this is why I think the Rams have a little bit of an advantage over some other teams in the NFL. Not that they're the only ones that do this, but I think they're as good at it as anybody else. And that is finding football players, right? Finding guys that are going to be able to play in the league, succeed in the league, despite the fact that maybe one of their measurables isn't great, right? The reason Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua fell to the 3rd and the 5th round, respectively, is because they didn't have that great high-end speed. Here's what I know for sure. Nobody's ever caught one of those guys from behind once they get out into the open space. Once they're able to get a little bit of separation, no one catches them. We're not running track out there. We're playing football. And
Yeah,
Puka
exactly.
is one of those guys, and Cooper Kupp is one of those guys. And maybe, when they're running around in their underwear in Indianapolis in the combine, it's not the number that you're looking for. But I know when they put on helmets and pads and play in front of people, guys don't catch him. That catch against the Browns, the second that ball was in his hands, you're like, yeah, that's it. And it was. He was gone. No one was going to pull him back at that point. And the Rams have made kind of a business of this. Think about Kyren Williams too, right? That this is a guy that fell all the way to the 5th round because some of those measurables weren't exactly where you would want them. And now the Rams have themselves a really nice running back. I think that's one of the advantages they have. I think that's something they can continue to lean on. Obviously you got some high picks coming up in this upcoming draft. Theoretically, at least, we'll see what ultimately ends up happening. But the fact that they've been able to make some money in the back end of the draft with starting players is a huge advantage. And Puka is the ultimate representation of that.
Yeah, and Sean McVay said yesterday on his show, hosted by the voice of the Rams, J.B. Long and DeMarco Farr, how did they wait to the 5th round again? They wish they should have picked him up sooner, right? And a lot had to do with that 40 time. Also mentioned how he was hiding his hands there late, kind of gets those hands out to perfectly thrown ball. But yeah, next gen stats, they tweet out, Puka Nacua became the 3rd player this season to reach 20+ miles per hour on both a carry and a reception. Yet Tyreek Hill and Deebo Samuel both did the same thing. So to see him mention the same sentence as some of those guys as a 5th round pick, it just puts it into perspective. 77 catches this season. It's the 10th most in the NFL. 1,029 yards. It's the 6th most. Only Keenan Allen, Hill, Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Stephon Diggs, and A.J. Brown are top 10 in both. So it's just mind-blowing that we're this late in the season. I thought maybe a couple games, of course, he's going to have a breakout, and then he becomes a household name, then people adjust to him. But no, this is who he is at this point.
I think that's a great point, that this isn't a guy that had a day. This isn't a guy that had a couple of days or even a month. This is a guy that's had 3/4 of a season so far. That doesn't happen on accident. There are defensive coordinators out there that are looking at him, getting ready for these games and trying to find a way to slow down number 17, to make sure that he isn't the guy that beats him, and they still can't do it. I think that's the point, or at least the hope of having a really good player, is that even when they're game planned for, they can still find a way to impact the game, and Puka's done that. Now, they're going to continue to try to find ways to slow him down. They're going to, what's going to happen is they're going to start to make you forced to go to other places, namely number 10 and Cooper Kupp, which is not a bad place to have the ball go as a secondary option. So it's been found money. It's been a huge addition to the team. And if they're going to beat Baltimore, or more importantly, perhaps beat Washington, beat New Orleans, beat the New York Giants, you're going to need Puka Nacua to do it.
Yeah, for sure. You're going to need him in 150+ yard games. He has 3 of them this season. Only Randy Moss and Jamar Chase, as the rookies, have had 3. I mean, it's really unbelievable the season he's had. And I think really the only thing for me is just trying to avoid injury. I mean, you've heard that's kind of been the knock on him. It's these little knick-knack injuries starting to pile up. And just the way he plays, that reckless abandon, that fearlessness he plays with, he's got his puts himself in those situations, but it's kind of the gift and the curse. But right now, just loving the Puka train, still the conductor, still going, choo-choo up here. So having a good time with that. Now, next horns up, and we'll get into some more. We'll go to the break here. Matthew Stafford, 3 big-time throws. The check down there from Puka Nacua. McVay said yesterday, hey, why do you even need me right there, right? The way that Matthew Stafford go out there.
Yeah. I mean, obviously he's making a joke, and obviously Sean McVay is about as good at what he does as anybody else. But this is what having a Matthew Stafford allows you to do. And I'm not here to take another side swipe at Jared Goff. He was good for the Rams, but that is what he couldn't do. is look at something and go, oh, this is a chance to hit a home run right here, to break the huddle, have a play called, see that that's not what you can do right here, to get the look that you've been waiting for, and then execute the throw and not have somebody whispering it in your ear, to be able to do it on your own. That's what a guy like Stafford does. He's getting a little up there. He's a little bit injury prone, but with time and with a little bit of good luck with his health, he's still as good as anybody else out there when it comes to identifying what it is and making a big time throw.
He's just so intelligent, right? I mean, you can see that. I mean, the fact that he has that presence of mind to identify that, and also just trust that Puka Nacua is going to be there in that spot, and that throw, like you said, really only a handful of guys can be that accurate. It's always just a joy to watch him when he's on. And don't kid yourself. The defense has been great. Kyren Williams has been great. Puka Nacua has been great. The reason why this team is where they are is because of Matthew Stafford, for the most part.
We saw 1 week without it, and it may be the reason they don't go to the playoffs.
Yeah,
that's how important he is. He missed one game with an injury, and that might be the reason they don't go to the playoffs, because they lost to Green Bay, because Brett Rippon could not, never mind play like Matthew Stafford. Very few people can, but he couldn't even give you a basic level of quarterback competency in the NFL. And I like we talked about it before, the everyday that backup quarterback position. Look at what happened last night in Cincinnati in Monday Night Football, or I should say with Cincinnati against Jacksonville. Cincinnati had a capable backup in Jake Browning, who had a really good night. And when Trevor Lawrence goes down for the Jags, here comes C.J. Beathard, who fumbles on the first play of the game. It's just that backup quarterback's going to have to make a handful of plays for you at some point. The Rams didn't have one, and it may be the difference.
100%. We'll see if they can avoid that and just not regret not going out there and getting a backup quarterback sooner. Brett Rippon. It'd be funny if this whole season went down to Brett Rippon basically ruining it for them. But coming up next year, we got more winners and losers. We got horns up, horns down. And is the decline permanent for Cooper Kupp? That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
Put the Gametime app on your phone. We've talked about this, right? And here's an even better reason to put the Gametime app on your phone. It's the holiday season. You're thinking about last-minute gifts. You're thinking about ideas. What do I get that guy that I never know what to get him? How about some tickets to a game, right? And if you're thinking, oh, I haven't done it yet, this is where the Gametime app comes in. You don't have to worry about when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Maybe you got somebody in your life, not a huge sports fan, but they love to go see concerts. The Gametime app. Maybe you got somebody that loves to go see live comedy. The Gametime app. Theater events near you, killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and, of course, the best price guarantee. The Gametime app takes all the guesswork out of buying tickets for your next event. And the thing that I love as much as anything else, it's all in pricing. You don't get to the end and it's like, wait, where did that number come from? You get to see it right there. You can buy your tickets in seconds with just 2 taps. So take the guesswork out of buying your tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create that account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL, LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
And we're off running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And a special shout out to our everyday listeners out there for making us your first listen every single weekday. Also on YouTube, watching us. We appreciate you guys. You can join the Everyday Listeners Club too. Membership is 100% free, and you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams. Now, Travis, here in our second segment, we're going to pick up on these winners and losers, staying with the winners, horns up. Now, Matthew Stafford said after the game that his guys were balling, and what he meant was that offensive line. They protected him. Not a single sack. And I think really the highlight was Alaric Jackson. Really had struggled for stretches this season. He allowed just 2 pressures, had a 71.3 PFF grade. That was the highest of any of the offensive linemen. Was very impressed by Ajax.
Look, I think coming into this game, my number one concern was, what's Myles Garrett going to do to Matthew Stafford? What's Zadarius Smith going to be able to do to him if they get back there and we see him take some of the shots that we've seen him take so far this season? Didn't happen. It's remarkable how clean they were able to keep him. And you're right. A.J. Jackson was as good as you could possibly ask. 0 sacks allowed, 0 tackles allowed for Myles Garrett. It just was a masterful performance. Is Myles Garrett 100%? Clearly he's not. but who cares, right? He
Yeah.
still can do all sorts of damage, even if he is playing with a fairly significant injury, which I think he probably does have. Just watching him, it did not look like the Myles Garrett that you're used to seeing. But again, so what? They kept him off of Matthew Stafford. His legs worked fine, right? Like he was able to still move and run the way that he has, and that they kept him as clean as they did is a testament to Jackson for sure. It's a testament to all 5 of those guys up front. It's a testament to Royce Freeman. It's a testament to Kyron Williams that they had their pass protection assignments locked down the way that they did. It was just a masterclass on how to keep your quarterback in one piece.
Yeah, and I think that this offensive line, they took that challenge and they passed this test with flying colors. And it makes you wonder, if you go into every week thinking that you're going to go up against the top defense and Myles Garrett, what kind of performance you have, right? So they rose to the occasion. Got to give a lot of credit for that. And speaking of Myles Garrett, next horns up, the greats there, Travis, they always find different ways to motivate them. And they talked at Myles Garrett, best defensive player on the planet, the front runner for the defensive player of the year. Aaron Donald, 3rd straight week with at least 7 pressures. He had 8 total pressures, had a sack. Aaron Donald, a generational player, one of the best players in the history of the NFL, showed once again why.
I mentioned this before, and I think it's really fun to do. And you got to have to do it more than maybe just once or twice during the game. But take a series when the Rams are on defense and just watch number 99. And not just watch the havoc that he creates in what he's doing, but watch the amount of attention that is paid to him by the opposing offense. Watch the amount of time that he's double teamed, sometimes triple teamed. Watch how often he's chipped if he gets back there by a back, that he is still the game wrecker in this league. There are other really good defensive players, but he's been doing it, like you mentioned, D-Mac, for a really long time. And they are still paying an inordinate amount of attention to what he does. I'm not taking anything away from Byron Young. I'm not taking anything away from Kobe Turner. They've been really good. But their success this season, I think, is predicated in large part because 99 is still demanding the 2 and 3 guys pay attention to him all the time, which means those guys are singled up a lot, and now they're starting to take advantage of it. It all comes back to Aaron Donald.
Absolutely. And Aaron Donald's influence on Kobe Turner, we'll talk about in a second here. You just it can't be overstated. You can't be overemphasized. And also, too, they're making skipping cool again. You see him skipping off the field. When you and Slee have a great show, which is every show, you guys should skip to the parking lot like that, like AD and Turner. I'm telling you, man, that's skipping. What'd you think about that?
I can skip. I think both of my shins would shatter if I tried to land on one leg at any given time. But yeah, no, you can tell like Aaron Donald was having a good time. I'll go back to the beginning of the season when they were asking him, hey, do you want to be a part of what it is we're going to start to do, which is kind of retool this football team. Bobby Wagner's gone. Jalen Ramsey is gone. It's going to kind of be you and a bunch of young guys. And his response was, as long as you find guys that are about it, I'm about it. And they found the right guys. You could see, I didn't see a big smile on Aaron Donald's face through the first part of the season. But now that they're winning, now that they're starting to kind of click together as a defensive unit, you can see it. Winning is fun, man. Everybody's in a better mood when you start to win, when you start to get to the quarterback, when you start to be able to really kind of pile it on like they did against the Browns at the end of that game. And Aaron Donald's about as serious a guy as you're ever going to see. So if he's skipping off the field arm in arm with one of his teammates, it's been a pretty damn good day.
Absolutely. And winning is a habit, too. It's contagious.
Sure.
And these young players, they're learning how to win. AD, Stafford, they know how to win, right? These young guys, though, they understand how to finish games. And Kobe Turner, I mean, you're talking about Puka, Byron Young, Steve Avila, Ethan Evans. You talk about Kobe Turner. I mean, those 5 rookies you're guaranteed to hit on at this point. He had 2 sacks last week, a sack and a half this week, 5 tackles, 4 pressures. And right now, he's in a possibility where if he gets 4 or more sacks the next 5 games, he's going to pass Aaron Donald's rookie record in 2014 of 9. Of course, Deacon Jones unofficially had 9.5 sacks back in 1961, so I still kind of credit that. But still, I mean, that just shows you where Kobe Turner's at, who didn't get off to the best start, but now it's starting to click, and you're starting to see the results.
Well, think about it like you just said, D-Mac. Had he gotten off to, never mind a fast start, had he just gotten off to any sort of normal start, I think that record would be far more likely to go down. To ask for that amount of sacks with only 5 games remaining is a pretty big ask at that position, unless your name is Aaron Donald. But who knows? It's been a great season. He's certainly added his name to that list that you just mentioned of starters that they found in one draft. You're talking 5 guys in one draft without a first-round pick. It's a pretty remarkable accomplishment. And, Turner's probably the 5th name that we've added to that, past Evans, past Nacua, past Avila, past Young. But he's certainly on it now.
Absolutely. Then Ernest Jones, career high 15 tackles, no missed tackles. And Travis, how about John Johnson III, 72.6 PFF grade, 6 tackles. He was targeted one time, and that one time he gets an interception. Yes, it was an overthrow, but that had to be a sweet, delicious revenge interception for that Browns team that signed him, didn't work out with him. So definitely was excited to see him have success against his old team.
I'll go back to training camp. I was out there doing a show, and you saw him. He was not on the Rams at this point. He was just kind of walking around. You saw him talking with some coaches and some of his old teammates, and he looked good. He looked like he was in shape, and he looked like he just kind of fit in there. And we were all saying, I wonder if the Rams might kick the tires on John Johnson III again, kind of bring him back. Obviously, they did it. It's been pretty quiet, but the idea was, hey, listen, if he's just like we've talked about, the adult in the room, the guy that makes a play a handful of times a year to just kind of settle everything down, then it's definitely worth it. And I think that's exactly what we got on Sunday.
For sure. 100%. Now, coming up, Travis, our next time we got horns down losers. We're going to talk about Cooper Kupp, some other players. That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
I know we come to sports to escape from some of the crazy realities of real life, but can we just talk for a minute about preparing for real life? According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin right in the middle of the worst flu season in over a decade. This obviously, of course, is very, very scary. So I can't imagine a more helpless feeling than if somebody you love or one of my kids or somebody got sick while a supply chain issue kept them from a life-saving medication that you need. So thankfully, we're going to be all right because of Jase Medical. The Jase case is part of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, sinusitis, skin infection, and others, right? This stuff could happen to you, to me, to any of us. So visit jasemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. It'll be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important to be prepared than it is today. Go to jasemedical.com and use the code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your first order.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Now, Travis, here in our final segment, got horns down. Tutu Atwell didn't have a great game. He drew a pass interference, got that PI. He ended up making 1 catch for 9 yards. Nothing too much to talk about with him. Avila and Dotson didn't grade out fantastic in the run game, but they were really good in the passing game. But that's really just spotting the pimple on a model right there. Not taking anything away from the offensive line. But we just focus on Cooper Kupp, though. Kupp, 6 catches, 39 yards, did have a touchdown. Also fared very well in the blocking game. Had a 77.7 PFF grade as a run blocker. But if you look at since he returned from the IR, he's averaging 4.4 yards per target. That's 108th out of 114 players with at least 20 targets. 47.4% catch rate. That's 112th out of 114. So the production just has not been anywhere close to where we've seen it at his heights. And it makes you start to wonder, is the decline permanent? I think personally, he's not close to 100%. He's playing injured. I still think he's better than he's currently playing, but I don't think we're going to see the 2021 version of Cooper Kupp again, just because that was just ridiculous.
Well, the 2021 version you'd seen 3 times in the history of the NFL.
Yeah.
So to try to get back to that is an unrealistic expectation. The question is, can he get back to being an impactful player week in and week out? And I think the answer is yes, with a giant but on the back end. The but is, if he's just not healthy, then everything we're seeing this season makes a lot of sense, right? He's just not able to do what we've seen him able to do in the past physically, right? If it's not that, if it's just the normal wear and tear of a season, if it's just the normal, this is how your body feels in December, then that's a different question altogether. Because I'm a big believer in the eye test. I'm a big believer in, what does it look like when you get up off the ground? Watch some of the motions that he's had over the last couple of weeks. Usually Cooper Kupp, I would always remark to Kirk Morrison, my partner on these games, when he would go in motion, he was at full speed, right? And then when he had to cut and come back the other way, it was sharp, it was quick, it was precise. And now it's a little bit more deliberate. The turns are a little more rounded off when he's coming in and out of these cuts. And I just think it's a factor of injury, age, time, all of these things added up. Now, can he still be effective? Sure. Can he still be a guy that makes a big play for you? You saw it on Sunday where he got into the end zone. He had a pretty quiet day, but I think if we're anticipating a time where we go back and Cooper Kupp is good for 8, 9, 10 catches a week and, 100, 125, 150 yards and a touchdown or two, I don't think we're going to get that. I don't think that's the player that he is anymore. The good news is you have somebody else that can pick up that slack, but it's definitely something to watch. And don't just watch the stat sheet. Watch him get up off the ground. Watch how he goes down to the ground. It just does not look like that guy we've seen in previous seasons.
Yeah, Travis, and you mentioned the speed. And yes, his game isn't predicated on speed, but just losing a little speed, though, can make it easier on defenses to cover him, getting out of his breaks and taking away from some of the precise route running that he's made his name for, right? So I think that's a big thing as well. I will say, though, that if you look at what he can still do, drawing coverages, right? Going out there, drawing penalties, what he can do as a blocker, he's still someone that can produce. And I think you just have to kind of lower the standard a little bit. I mean, is he at number one right now? No, but could he be one of the best number twos in the game? Would he be the absolute very best three in the game? The answer is yes. And if you look at his contract out there, I see people, should they trade Cooper Kupp, maybe get a second, third round pick, this and that? No, look, if you look at his contract, the dead cap hits without going into the weeds on it, it's pretty much an untradeable contract right now. I think you look at the culture too. I think he's big. I don't think Puka Nacua has the success that he has this season without the influence of a Cooper Kupp and the mentorship and just opening things up for him. I think that he played a role in that. So I don't think they're going to move him or anything like that, but I still think that it's okay to accept the fact that he's probably not going to be all-world Cooper Kupp. He's also probably not going to be this version. If he can get 100% healthy, maybe you get something in between. Only thing is, these injuries start to pile up, and if it's not something, it's something else. Like I always say, beer, bacon, 72 Dolphins, and Father Time are undefeated. So that's something that's in play here too.
Yeah, look, I don't think they could move him even if they wanted to, but I don't think they want to. I think that, to your point, he's important to that team for a million reasons. His production is certainly one of them, but I think you're right. I think he's a great example of the culture that they're trying to create. Now, let me take that back. He's a good example of the culture they have created, not of what they're trying to create, but what they have created. And I think he deserves a ton of credit for that. He's not the best wide receiver on the team anymore. It's just going to take a minute to get used to it. That's okay. There's a reason Randy Moss isn't the best wide receiver on the Vikings anymore. Time catches up to everybody eventually. And hopefully he's hurt. Hopefully he'll I think everybody understands what I mean by that the lack of production is a result of him not being 100% physically. But even if it's not true, he can still be a very impactful player. And again, the key, you have another guy who can make plays regularly in Puka Nacua. You have a second guy. You mentioned Tutu at the top of this segment. He didn't have a great day statistically, but Tutu's pretty good for one PI down the field every single game. I know it doesn't show up on the stat sheet necessarily, but it's still a 35, 40-yard gain in field position. Now, he doesn't get credit for it, but I think he probably should.
Yeah, and he's proven if you target him, he can be productive. I mean, he's shown stronger hands than people thought he had. I still think that it's lack of opportunity, but yeah, you're right. I mean, there's something that goes with that. I mean, creating pass interferences because of his speed, that provides value. I think with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, it's a situation where Matthew Stafford's Andy and Cooper Kupp is Woody and Puka Nacua is Buzz Lightyear, right? Buzz Lightyear's the new shiny new toy, but hey, Woody, come on, man. Woody's my favorite, right?
Ham. I like Ham.
Ham?
Ham was always insulting people along the way. I like Ham a lot. I think and don't sleep on Mr. Potato Head either. He was a good one.
Oh yeah, that I love their relationship. I like the Slinky Dog, man. Slinky Dog's awesome, man. There's actually a ride at Disney where you can ride the Slinky Dog. I didn't go on; I was too scared to ride it, but yeah, it's pretty cool. But that's gonna do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And as always, you can follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, at Travis Rogers. And until next time, whose house is Locked On Rams house?